here today to share what has become a real passion for me over the last few years. And that is helping owners, transition out of their business. BEI developed a 7-step process, and it's all the steps that are necessary to think of and consider when you're planning your business exit. What's different with respect to the BEI approach is that it involves a number of advisors that work cooperatively and collaboratively to help the business owner plan and then execute an exit plan from their business. So just tell you a little bit about myself because I came to this practice quite, I guess, naturally through the evolution of my career in business. I am a business advisor with Wardell International, and I serve growing clients and clients that are not quite there at the exit planning stage, but are trying to grow and structure and systemize their business so that they can scale. And as a business scales and becomes more independent from the owner, the business becomes more valuable so that at the time of exit, it just makes practical sense to think about exiting even when you're growing a business or even when you're starting a business. So I'm a co-founder of a business that's still here in Vancouver after 28 years. I think it's called Solly's Bagelry. And I started that business with my ex-wife, who still operates the business. And that was a growth experience. It was also an exit experience for me. And that's another motivator in terms of, my interest in business exit planning, because I really wanted to help owners exit their businesses. But I also experienced an exit that, could have been done differently had I known what I know now. Let me just tell you about BEI quickly. It is a training institute for training advisors. So they train advisors to help business owners exit their business. And one of the important things I learned from this experience is that, as a business exit planner, there are really two audiences that I want to reach. One is business owners, but the other audience is business advisors who have a trusted relationship with business owners. And so as much as this is for business owners, it's also for their advisors. When their owners come to them and say, John, I'm thinking about exiting the business in the next 5 years. What do you think I should do? Well, many of these advisors really don't understand about the process. They may have a piece and a part of the process, but they don't have a holistic view and approach. And so as I do this webinar and try and educate more business owners and their advisors, it will elevate, the knowledge that business owners have as a whole and their advisors also. And I think it will result in a greater number of business owners successfully exiting their business. So this is part of what exit planning is about. This is the reason why we plan. It's the creation and execution of a strategy that allows owners to exit their business on their terms and conditions. And really, isn't that what the definition of a successful business exit is, leaving when you want to leave with the money you want to get out of your business and seeing it go to a successor that you would like to operate and carry on the legacy of your business. So it's a written roadmap for an exit plan that involves several professionals. So when I thought, exit planner, does that mean I do everything? No, actually not. It means that I build a team and help the owner build a team of expert advisors. And it's a diverse group, right? So there is a lawyer involved, and I'll tell you some of the other places around the table, but we put together a team of expert advisors that help create the plan to achieve the owner's goals. What is the 7-step exit planning process? Well, it's a step-by-step process for helping the owner exit their business successfully, in one word or in one sentence. And what are the components of it? Well, the first component, the first step, is really the objectives. Because you think about it, well, that makes a lot of sense, right? The owner doesn't know what a successful exit looks like. Then how is he going to know if he actually achieved it? So we set some goals here at the first step, and that's my role as an exit planner, is to sit down with the owner or owners and say, look, what does a successful exit look like for you? So foundationally, there are three types of goals. Foundationally, we're looking for financial independence, of course. We want to have enough money to sustain the lifestyle that we want to have after our business for as long as we think we're going to live. So that's a foundational goal. Then there are universal goals, which every business owner has. Well, there's a date, we're going to leave, we want to leave. There's a financial target, and there's also a successor or a buyer that we'd like to see carry on with the business. But there's also another type of goal, and that's a value-based goal or aspirational goal. And that's like creating a legacy and maintaining the company's culture and rewarding employees, all those other things that come out during this objective setting process are going to help business owners identify beyond the financial and other kind of details of the exit, what aspirational goals they have, what value goals do they have. Because I think, and I don't know if any of you thought, but one of the reasons why I think that business owners are unhappy a year after they leave the business is because, they never considered some of these other goals that were really important to them. And then they have regrets about that. Step two is about figuring out, what you have right now. So if you think about it logically, you'll think, okay, so in 5 years, we want to leave the business with X, right? These are our goals. In 5 years, we want all these goals accomplished. Well, let's take a stock of where we are right now on all these goals, right? So we can do a valuation of the business. I'd bring in a business valuator. We'd get, what is the business worth now? We would bring in the wealth planner to figure out what assets the owners have outside the business, right? Because then we combine the two and we say, okay, so if you walk away today from the business, this is the kind of lifestyle that you're going to have given the assets that you currently have. And that's great. And if the business is worth enough and you have enough outside the business and you've got enough money to spend the next 20, 25 years enjoying your life, yeah, you can leave as soon as you find a buyer. In many cases, there may be a gap. There may be a gap between where we are now and where we want to be. And it could be the valuation gap. Often it is just the amount of money that the business is currently worth. I hear from many business brokers that when a business owner comes to ask for a valuation on their business, they're quite shocked that it's not worth as much as they thought. And that's naturally because, they're valuing it on their input, their sweat, their years and all that, what they think it's worth to them. But the reality is it's only important what it's worth to someone who's willing to buy it. So we also look as if there is a gap financially, do we have enough time to close the gap? In a couple of years or less, you can't do very much, with a business. You maybe can hire some people, but even some tax planning for tax minimization purposes need some years in advance just from a CRA standpoint. And then there are other considerations that if you don't have key people in place, you need to get them in place, because if you walk away and the business falls apart, it's not worth very much. When we know what the gap is, we start to think about how do we close that gap. And we talk about that in terms of value drivers. So it's a term, looking at what are the value drivers in this particular business, the unique value drivers in this particular business that have transferable value. And transferable value meaning that it's value that a buyer is willing to pay for. So here are some ones that we often find. A strong management team that stays, reoccurring and sustainable revenue, a solid diversified customer base, good and improving cash flow, operating systems, sustainable cash flows, competitive advantages, documented and proven growth strategies, financial foresight and control, scalability. All those things are, things that a buyer are willing to pay for. So this stage is about figuring out what we need to do to close that gap in the time that we have. When we know what that is, we start to decide, who do we really want to sell it to? And often, the first thought that a owner has is, oh, well, we'll just get an agent and broker, we'll put it on the market and somebody will buy it. Well, once you've considered, what your goals are. In other words, the third goal there that I talked about, which was the successor, um, then you may think, wait a minute, maybe I want to sell it to my management team or to my employees. Maybe I want to transfer it to one of my children. Well, that's not a third party sale. That's a internal sale. And if you're clear about fact, no, there's no children that are interested or want to work in the business, and management team, they don't want to be owners, whatever. Well, then we start to plan for this third party sale. And there's things that need to be done to prepare for that. And we just in a short summary, we call that a pre due diligence list. So in other words, what it is when a broker comes to you with a buyer that's interested in your business, and they get to some point where they're starting to get serious, they're going to ask you for all kinds of information, answers to questions, documents, financial statements, so on and so forth. All that stuff needs to be done. That's what they call as a due diligence list. So what we do in the planning stage of exit planning is to actually prepare that same list, but prepare it in advance so that when it comes along, we're prepared to provide whoever needs the information that they need. And that makes it a lot smoother. It also actually identifies some red flags in our business that a buyer might otherwise find. So we can fix those in advance and really put the business in the best light so that it not only sells, but that it attracts more buyers, which obviously has a benefit as well. If it's a ownership transfer to insiders, as a meaning to a management team, employees, business active child, that's another path. That's a different path. There are other considerations that happen there just because of the nature of who the business is being transferred to. And that's where we, as exit planners, bring up some of the things that we need to look at. For example, transfer structure that can support the other goals of the owner. A well-planned transfer can result in more after-tax money in the owner's pocket. So one of the questions that owners have, or one of the things they think, is that well, they can't sell it to their managers because they have no money. Well, the fact is that there are ways to structure funding of a ownership transfer through the profitability of the business that actually allows the owner to earn ownership over time and allows the owner to get funds out of their business in a more tax efficient way. Okay, so we've got a plan to exit the business. We know who we're going to sell it to. We know when we want to sell it. We know all the things we need to do to build value in it. All the objectives are part and parcel of the plan that we have. And that plan, by the way, is something that I, as an exit planner, prepare and document. And it's a documented plan that everybody has, who's on the team, has access to for their part of the puzzle. And this part is a bit of an insurance thing. In other words, as I talked about, if you're a business owner and you have looking for to transfer your business, you want to make sure that in the time frame that you have, in the next three years, if God forbid something happens to you or your partner or both of you or whatever, that the business is still going to continue to operate. And so we do a business continuity instructions, and it's almost like a will for the business. Many people have wills. Of course, they say, oh, I've got a will, I've got a will. Yeah, but does the will say, who makes the decisions in your business around this? Does it say who has the authority to do that? Does it say where the important codes and account numbers for the business are? Well, that's what's going in this business continuity instructions, which, I sit down, prepare with a business owner, and I believe, wholeheartedly that every business should have in place. And then there's wealth and estate planning. So that means, okay, so when you're leaving your business on that day, that with that happy check in hand and a bright future ahead, what are you going to do with that money? And the beauty of the exit planning process, I think, that BEI developed is that they bring the advisors in at the beginning. Like the wealth planner comes in at the beginning The broker comes in at the beginning. Key people come in at the beginning because when we're doing the gap analysis, we need their advice and help. And as a result, there's discussions around what's the best thing to do with the money from the business, from an investment standpoint, from an estate planning standpoint. And that's why it's important part of step 7. So what are the steps in the exit planning process? We've talked about, okay, there's an exit planning process, 7 steps and all that. Well, the first thing, of course, is the first step is for the owner to decide they want to do exit planning. So that's the first step. And then the next step is to collect the data that needs to be pulled together. And we as exit planners have a list of things that we need to get together for the exit planning process. We need to, of course, create the advisor team that were there. We need to start setting some strategies. We need to start looking at what the objectives are. All that stuff is all done in that first step. And then from those objectives and the input of the advisors who are part and privy to the objectives of the owner, recommendations are generated. So all these recommendations come up. Oh, well, if they want to do this, we need to consider that. And, if they want to sell it to their managers, okay, we're going to need to assess whether they're capable and ready and how soon they would be ready to actually take on ownership and what's right. So there's a lot of different recommendations come into the strategy and approach. So in a way, this exit planning that we do is kind of a step-by-step process, but it's also highly customizable to the needs and to the goals of each individual owner. And once we have a kind of a roadmap, and we have the advisor's input, we'll bring those recommendations to the owners, of course, and we'll go through that and present it. This is what we think is the plan. And then finally, from those recommendations, a plan will be created. And then we go to the implementation stage. It's not just about creating a plan, it's actually implementing the plan. And the plan in itself doesn't take that long to create. The implementation, of course, may go over a number of years. The reason why exit planning is a team sport, if you will, is because no one professional has all the answers, right? I'm not a lawyer. I can't answer some legal questions. The accountant doesn't know very much about law. A lawyer doesn't know very much, about selling a business. So there are different advisors that are required. And you need all those diverse skills and talents. You need that to actually execute the plan. But the team approach actually ends up saving the owner time and cost. And I can explain more about that, in another conversation. But the fact is that there's synergy happens there's communication that happens between the different advisors. And it's all because we've got an exit planner like myself, who's there kind of as the quarterback. To do the planning, there's actually a piece of software that BEI developed, and it's it's proprietary software called Epic. And what it does is allows us to make sure we ask all the right questions, kind of systemizes the planning process a little bit and templates some of the documents that we need. So that saves time. And then from that Epic, there's also the recommendations part of it. So it's collecting the data, it's a hub for all that, but it's also the recommendations library or resource. That means that when we look at what recommendations might be appropriate for this particular owner, we can then go to our library and we can see, what recommendations have been done by various other businesses and advisors over the past that have made it for a good business practice. So we're kind of not inventing the wheel here. We're just learning from the experience of many business owners who have exited successfully. What are the things that need to be considered? The traditional way business owners have approached exit planning is that they tend to think of themselves as being in the middle of the circle, and they make a decision. Okay, I need to, I guess, start planning this exit. I guess I should call my accountant, and see what he thinks, or call my lawyer. Most don't really know where to start, in fact, because exit planning as a practice is relatively new. It's been 25 years that BEI has from their founding date, but really in Canada, it's just almost like an emerging practice here. So that's why I'm also trying to build awareness amongst business owners that, hey, there is a better way to go about this, that doesn't put you in the middle and having to do all that stuff that either you're not good at or you shouldn't be doing in the first place. And that's where the exit planner comes in. That's the role of the exit planner. So I'm the quarterback, as I said. We assemble a team of advisors with different diverse expertise that all contribute to solving the objectives that we have. And my role is then to, communicate and facilitate for the business owner to step in his place. And that's important for two reasons. One is because I've been trained to do that now, and I know how the process works, and I can help business owners through that process. And two, that the business owner needs to focus on the business. This is the home stretch. Many business owners who actually are thinking about exiting, as soon as they decide, yeah, I'm on my way out, they start forgetting about their business. And that is a problem because ultimately, they're actually affecting the value of the business. And it might just lead to deterioration of the business over the time that they've got their mind, out the door on the golf course. So my recommendation is that the business owners really look at putting themselves in a place where they can, look at this as a sprint, the home stretch. We got 3 years. I'm going to work on those things that are really going to add value to my business, and I'm going to make this the most valuable business I can make. And I'm going to be leaving this business with the accomplishing the objectives that I set. So it's a really thoughtful, and it's a very logical kind of approach. And business owners should be logical and business-like in their thinking, and it just makes good business sense. How long does it take to get an exit plan done? There's a first stage. We call it the discovery process, and it's getting all the things together that we need, asking the questions that we need to ask. And that's can take from a month to 3 months. Then there's the plan creation part of it. That's actually documenting all the recommendations that are going into the plan, any agreements that need to be made with, say, for example, key employees who you want to tie to the business for the long term. And then the implementation can take, I guess, anywhere from 180 days to several years, depending on what your timeline is for exiting the business. Why is it worth hiring somebody to do this? What's the value of exit planning for our clients and for business owners? Well, for one, we're focused on maximizing the value of the business, transferable value. We're looking at minimizing the risk of that going, sideways, as it does and it has for many, many businesses. And we want the business owners to stay in control of the business until they're fully funded and they are leaving the business, with that full check in hand. And I think it's pretty evident from just the presentation that business exit planning makes good business sense. So you got to set some concrete goals, smart goals that are that drive action, things that are coordinated. Focused action requires specific goals. So that's one of the messages I want you to take away. You need to set some goals. They need to be specific, and you need to be focused on achieving those goals. And secondly, financial independence. Any measure of success of a business exit needs to look at financial independence. And financial independence means, are the business owners now, they've left the business, do they have enough money to live the lifestyle that they want to for the remainder of their lives? And thirdly, exit planning helps maximize business value. And we talked about that. We said, okay, so we identify the value drivers in your business. We know where you're weak. We know where the drivers are strong, and we focus on the weak ones. We try and improve as much those value drivers, so that creates transferable value to a buyer, and that, in essence, allows you to walk away from your business with the money that you need to sustain the lifestyle that you want. And the thing also that is important to consider is that minimizing risk is one of the things that is a potential, roadblock or a potential disaster in that plan. If you've got a plan and something happens and you don't have a contingency plan, well, it could really just disrupt and or even destroy your plan. So we make sure that we minimize the risk there, and we want to keep you, the owner, in control of the process, right, till the point where you're finally, in hand with the money and the funds that you wanted out of your business, and you're ready to start and embrace, a new life outside the business. The other thing that really attracted me to this practice was the collaborative expert team approach. And it really hit home for me. It really was clear for me that, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. As a former business owner myself, I know what the cost of, advisors are. And so I want to make sure that if I'm hiring somebody, they, first of all, they got to be good. And secondly, that we don't waste a lot of time because they charge by the hour off. Well, by having a team together, by having someone coordinating the team and getting them to do the work that they need to do, giving them clear instructions, and all that that happens during the exit planning process and execution. Well, that saves time, money. It's just more efficient. When you're doing things more efficiently with people who are paid by the hour, you save time, and time saves money. So that's clear to me. And exit planning takes time. Business owners often think that, wow, I guess I'm a year ahead. Let's just put a sign in the window. Let's just get a broker and let's see what we get out of the business. Well, they may often be sorely disappointed to find out that, they're not ready to exit at all, either emotionally or financially or either structurally or systemization. All these things, that work that needs to be done to get the value of the business up to where it makes sense to leave. And so the sooner you start, I guess, the better. It just gives you more time, and more time gives you more options. And finally, I guess I would say that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, the exit planning process is something that was developed and it's been proven over thousands and thousands of businesses. And it literally, multiplies the value of your business, and the investment into exit planning is just returns tremendously in more than one way. I do offer, a free complimentary conversation, chat, consultation, discovery call, whatever you want to call it. I'll sit down and have a chat with anybody, either a business advisor who has a business owner who's thinking about it and wants to learn what might be a good approach for that particular business owner. As I said, every case is unique, but that's what's interesting about it, because the planning is customizable, and that's the whole reason, purpose behind doing the planning, is that you have a plan in place